Hello, dear friends. You're watching the Ruslan Belov channel, and this is your daily battlefield report from the Ukrainian front. Today's episode will be somewhat shorter than usual. I'm currently sick with a fever, and the number of frontline developments worth covering in detail is noticeably lower than in the previous 24 hours. As always, the material is divided into two segments. First, we'll discuss the Iran-US confrontation, then move on to the situation on our front. So what happened over the past day within the framework of the Iran-US conflict? Though perhaps it would be more accurate to call what's happening a regional war, since the scale of the confrontation has long exceeded the boundaries of a bilateral clash. Israel yesterday launched a ground offensive operation in southern Lebanon, while Qatar carried out airstrikes against Iranian territory. As a result, at least 5 states are now directly involved in open armed confrontation, and the conflict continues to expand geographically. On a related note, one cannot help but point out a telling detail. Certain, let's say, not particularly far-sighted individuals spent these 4 years of war in Ukraine not studying real combat experience, but doing something else entirely. And here is the result. Israel, during yesterday's offensive, made extensive use of armored vehicles. One would think that any modern tank can easily be taken out by a couple of FPV kamikaze drones. Yet the opposing side simply isn't using this tool, apparently because some people preferred staring at the ceiling rather than absorbing lessons from the battlefield. Meanwhile, Iran over the past day launched a massive drone strike against the CIA facility located in Riyadh, the capital of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The strike hit its target. The building was engulfed in flames and the roof collapsed. The consequences proved serious enough that the American side issued orders for the emergency evacuation of all its diplomatic and intelligence facilities within range of Iranian missile systems. And Iran's missile range, it should be understood, is approximately 2,000 kilometers. In practical terms, evacuation measures now encompass an enormous perimeter at that distance from Tehran. In addition to this, a strike was carried out yesterday against port infrastructure in Oman. Footage is available. A direct hit was captured on objective control video. However, the most consequential strike of the day was the attack on the Al Fujairah oil terminal, located in the United Arab Emirates. It should be emphasized that this terminal ranks among the largest oil infrastructure facilities in the world. Nevertheless, Iran struck it with precision, as a result of which operations at the terminal were completely suspended. On top of all this, the Strait of Hormuz remains blocked. Look at the satellite imagery. A massive jam of oil tankers has already formed in the strait's waters. Global oil and gas prices continue to rise steadily, which of course has the most favorable possible effect on Russian federal revenue. Satellite imagery is also coming in from American military bases scattered across various parts of the Middle East. These images clearly show that Iranian strikes proved highly effective. Radar stations have been hit, satellite communications facilities have been destroyed, and even the THAAD missile defense system sustained damage, one of the most expensive air defense systems in the world. At the same time, Iran itself is also being subjected to intensive airstrikes. On screen are footage from yesterday's American bombardment of Tehran, the capital of the Islamic Republic of Iran. In general, no end to this armed confrontation is in sight. President Donald Trump is publicly declaring that the United States possesses inexhaustible weapons stockpiles and is prepared to continue the military campaign indefinitely. Well, we'll see how closely those words align with reality. Notably, the American administration held a closed briefing for members of Congress and the Senate this morning, at which, according to available reports, the possibility of a full-scale ground operation against Iran is being seriously discussed among other options. So a swift conclusion to the conflict is clearly not to be expected, and that, whichever way you look at it, is a favorable circumstance. By all indications, the Iranian scenario is playing out for Trump in a way that was not part of the original plan. This is eloquently demonstrated by the flood of aggressive threats from the American side, warning that even more powerful airstrikes will rain down on Tehran. This kind of move is a characteristic political maneuver for Trump, designed to intimidate the opposing ruling elites. It doesn't appear to be working so far. It's important to understand. The longer the conflict drags on, the more intense and relentless the media assault on Trump will become within the United States itself, and the faster the president's approval ratings will erode. He is effectively backing himself into a political corner, as the Telegram channel Legitimny has noted. As for the scenarios that remain available to Trump, 4 can be identified. First, continue the military campaign to its conclusion, acting alone, going all in, and continuously raising the stakes. Second, initiate a peace negotiation process through intermediaries, with security guarantees and substantial economic incentives for both sides. Third, negotiate with pro-Western Middle Eastern states about joining a military coalition, assemble a broad alliance, and launch a full-scale ground operation. Fourth, unilaterally exit the active phase of the conflict, attempt once again to freeze the confrontation by publicly declaring that all stated objectives have been achieved, and in the event Iran attempts to resume active operations, resort to threats involving the most destructive weapons available, up to and including nuclear ones. We continue to watch how the situation develops. Now let's move on to an overview of the situation on the Russian front. Over the past 24 hours, comparatively few advances confirmed by video footage have been recorded. The first change concerns Sumy Oblast. Here, units of the northern grouping of forces established control over the border settlement of Bobilyovka. Thus, as we had anticipated earlier, the bridgehead in this area continues to expand in an orderly fashion, and will, in all likelihood, continue to do so going forward. However, significantly more important from an operational standpoint is the advance on the Vovchansk direction. Here, units of the southern grouping carried out an offensive along a front stretching 5.5 kilometers and entered the settlement of Fedorivka Druha. As a result of the fighting, warehouse facilities in the southern part of the settlement were captured and a foothold established in its center. Fighting continues in the northern part of Fedorivka Druha, but it is quite clear that Ukrainian armed forces will be unable to hold their positions here, and in the very near future this settlement will pass entirely under Russian control. What does the further operational logic of this advance look like? After Fedorivka Druha comes the small settlement of Dibrova, and beyond it lies a direct route to Rye-Oleksandrivka from the south. The pace of events on this sector is exceeding even our previously stated forecasts. Recall that we said a good outcome for March would be the capture of Fedorivka Druha, Dibrova, Nikiforivka, Lipivka, and a push to Rye-Oleksandrivka. Today is only the 4th of March, and progress here is already quite substantial. There are every grounds to believe that by the end of March, Russian forces will not only reach Rye-Oleksandrivka, but will establish control over the settlement itself. This means that as early as April, an offensive toward the city of Mykolaiv could begin. A number of pro-Russian information sources are marking the settlements of Rybatske and Veselyanka as having passed under Russian control, while Primorske is shown in grey on some of them, indicating that this settlement is in a grey zone. At the same time, video footage has come in from Primorske confirming the presence of Russian military personnel. From one location, footage arrived showing a Russian advance of 3 kilometers. From another, 3.5 kilometers, and all marked territory is shown as having passed under Russian control. Veselyanka has, according to available reports, come under Russian control. Rybatske has apparently done so as well. As soon as confirming footage arrives, the map will be updated. It would appear that the entire pocket between Rybatske and Mahdalonivka is also being cleared and is transitioning to control by the Russian armed forces. We are awaiting confirming information and will update the map accordingly. In the meantime, let's move to the Hulipole direction. News and information about changes in the operational situation are coming in from the Hulipole direction. Let's start with the changes concerning the settlement of Zaliznichne. Footage has arrived from this area. Sources report the following. Positional fighting is continuing in the Hulipole area. Units of the Russian armed forces are advancing westward from Zaliznichne by 2 kilometers and are occupying new positions. Russian forward positions in a field fortification came under fire from the Ukrainian armed forces. All territory marked in red on the map has today come under full Russian control. Previously, reports were coming in that Russian units were expanding their zone of control around the settlement of Starokranka. This likely referred to expansion in the direction indicated on the map. In addition, 2 pieces of footage arrived from the settlement of Rozdvianivka. Recall that earlier, It was declared that Vovchansk had completely passed under Russian control, and confirming materials are now beginning to arrive. Earlier, confirmation was received from one location. Russian troops had advanced toward Vovchansk from the direction of Ternovate by 4.5 kilometers. Today, footage arrived from 2 additional locations. As a result of assault operations, units of the Russian armed forces advanced through the residential areas of Vovchansk and consolidated on new positions on the southern and eastern outskirts of the settlement. The expansion of the zone of control on this sector of contact was up to 2 kilometers. It can therefore be assumed that confirming footage of an advance that occurred several days ago is now arriving, and Vovchansk has in fact been under Russian control for a number of days already. Reports are also coming in that Russian forces are striking Verkhnya Tersa and Vozdvizhivka. No confirmed advance toward these settlements is recorded as of the time of this recording. We move on to the Pokrovsk direction. Many analysts and commentators have already taken to calling this the Dobropilya direction, but I continue to call it the Pokrovsk direction by established tradition, since changes are being recorded specifically in the Pokrovsk area. Today, changes have been recorded in the settlement of Hryshyn and its surroundings. Footage has arrived from this area. Sources report the following. Positional fighting is continuing in the Krasnoarmysk, that is Pokrovsk, area. Russian forward positions east of Hryshyn came under fire from Ukrainian armed forces. Russian units are advancing northward from Krasnoarmysk by 1.5 kilometers and are occupying new positions. All territory marked in red on the map has today come under Russian control. A number of sources report that Hryshyn has already passed entirely under Russian control, though no confirming footage has yet been received. The only available confirming materials relate to one specific sector of contact. All marked territory in that area has today passed under Russian control. If the report about Hryshyn passing under Russian control indeed reflects the actual situation, then in the next few days confirming footage will arrive from there, and the map will be updated accordingly. Assault operations at the Zaporizhzhia mine are continuing. Russian units previously consolidated on the northern edge of this facility, and its systematic clearing is currently underway. Some subscribers have asked, why not destroy the facility with airstrikes rather than conduct a costly and bloody storm? The reason is that a highly fortified Ukrainian defensive position was established here, one that may still be active. This facility has already been struck multiple times with FAB aviation bombs. The relevant footage I have posted in my Telegram channel. Despite repeated bombardments, it proved impossible to dislodge Ukrainian units through airstrikes alone. And so a direct assault and clearance of the mine is now underway. On a number of pro-Ukrainian mapping resources, this area is shown in such a way that all the territory is marked as being under Ukrainian control. How closely this reflects the actual state of affairs is as yet unclear. On my map, this area is marked differently, since confirming materials were previously received from several points. That is precisely why I have not made changes here. No footage from the Ukrainian side has arrived, and Ukrainian sources do not confirm the loss of certain territories in this area. Moving on to the Constantinovka direction. In the course of successful assault operations, Russian units advanced to the south of Stepanivka, where active fighting is currently continuing. According to a number of incoming reports, Stepanivka is passing under the control of the Russian armed forces. The Ukrainian side is using elevated hills in the northern part of the settlement for observation and fire coordination. In the central part of Stepanivka, Russian units have established control over these high points. Changes have also been recorded in the Berostok area. The entire settlement is under Russian control. In addition, the Russian army has advanced in the eastern part of Konstantinovka and reached the central street of the city's western section, Lomonosov Avenue. Fighting for control of the city's industrial zone is continuing. From the Kreminna direction, confirmed information about changes in the operational situation is coming in. The news broadly mirrors yesterday's. Russian units are expanding their zone of control in the eastern part of Lyman and attempting to advance deeper into the settlement. Reports are also coming in that a significant part of Drobyshev is already under Russian control. Recall that earlier, the Russian Ministry of Defense officially declared that Drobyshev had completely passed under the control of Russian forces. However, confirming video information at that time came only from one specific sector of contact. Today, footage was also received from another location, and all territory marked in grey on the map is shown as having passed under Russian control. In addition, today confirmation was received regarding the complete clearance of the adjacent woodland area. The clearance itself was carried out considerably earlier, and confirming materials only arrived now. In all likelihood, in the very near future, the map will be updated in favor of the Russian army. The entire settlement of Drobyshev is, it would appear, genuinely under Russian control. As the official statement of the Russian Ministry of Defense unambiguously indicates, those are the news and changes for today on this direction. We move on to Vovchansk. Confirming footage has arrived from the Vovchansk area, from the settlement of Vilcha. Footage has been received from the relevant location. Active fighting is continuing in the Kharkiv security zone. Assault units of the Russian armed forces are advancing along the western outskirts of Vilcha under intense enemy fire and are expanding the Russian zone of control in the settlement by approximately 400 meters. A brief recap of the background. Earlier, Ukrainian forward positions were located in the northern part of Vilcha, and the map was colored accordingly. All of that territory was under the control of the Ukrainian armed forces. Then reports appeared stating that Ukrainian forces had been fully driven from the settlement of Vilcha, but no confirming information was available at that point. Confirmation has now been received from a specific location. Reports are also coming in that the entire pocket between the settlements of Lyman and Vilcha has likewise been cleared and is under Russian control. A number of pro-Ukrainian sources report Ukrainian counterattacks in the direction of the western outskirts of Vilcha, but no confirming information from Ukrainian sources on this episode is yet coming in. The map in this area therefore remains unchanged. Reports are also arriving that the western part of Vovchansky Khutori has passed under Russian control, and that Russian units have expanded their zone of control in this area. Confirming information has not yet been found. I mentioned this to you yesterday as well. As soon as confirmation is received, I will immediately update the map. The map should look a certain way, but since there are no confirming materials, I'm leaving it unchanged for now. As soon as the information appears, I will of course update the map and tell you all about every change in detail. That's all for today. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time.